My stepmother threw me out of our family villa, out of the house I grew up in, out of the only place that ever felt like home. And 1 year later, I own the entire resort, including that villa. But that night, I wasn't powerful. I wasn't strategic. I wasn't calm. I was standing barefoot on polished marble steps in Malibu, holding one suitcase, while security guards avoided eye contact. My name is Olivia Hayes. And this is how I learned that being someone's daughter doesn't mean you're protected. My father built Hayes Cove Resort from nothing. Private coastal property in Malibu. Oceanfront villas. Members-only access. A place where celebrities came when they didn't want paparazzi. Where tech founders closed 9-figure deals over sunset dinners. But to me, it wasn't luxury. It was pancake Sundays. Late-night swims. Falling asleep to the sound of waves hitting the rocks. Dad used to say, "Liv, this isn't about money. It's about leverage." I didn't understand what he meant. Not until he died. He had a heart attack during a golf weekend in Palm Springs. 58 years old. No warning. No goodbye. The funeral was full of men in tailored suits who promised to take care of things. They didn't. 3 weeks later, I sat in a glass conference room inside the resort's executive building while the estate attorney read the will. My stepmother, Victoria, sat across from me in a black Dior dress and perfectly controlled grief. She married my father when I was 19. She was younger than him by 18 years. Polished. Strategic. Always watching. I never hated her, but I never trusted her either. The attorney cleared his throat. Most of the assets were placed into a structured trust. Control of operational decisions would remain with Victoria until I turned 30. 30. I was 24. My stomach dropped. The villa, legally part of the resort's executive housing, fell under operational authority, which meant she controlled it. After the meeting, she asked to speak privately. We stood in the living room with floor-to-ceiling windows facing the Pacific. "Olivia," she said gently, "it's time you learned independence." I almost laughed. "I have a finance degree from NYU. "That's education," she replied, "not power." Then she said it. "You'll need to move out by the end of the week." I stared at her. "This is my home." "No," she corrected calmly. "It's a company asset." Asset. That word erased childhood in a single syllable. I thought she was bluffing. She wasn't. 7 days later, my key card stopped working. My belongings were packed. Security escorted me down the stone walkway past guests, sipping champagne by the infinity pool. Some of them recognized me. No one intervened. The gates closed behind me with a quiet mechanical hum. And just like that, I was outside the world I grew up in. I checked into a small Airbnb in Venice Beach. The place smelled like incense and old coffee. The mattress dipped in the center. At night, I could hear traffic instead of waves. That's when I cried. Not because I lost luxury, because I realized something worse. I was never meant to inherit control. I was meant to wait, and waiting is a cage. 3 days later, my father's longtime financial advisor, Daniel Brooks, called me. We met at a quiet cafe in Santa Monica. He looked uncomfortable. "Victoria is restructuring certain divisions," he said carefully. "She's considering selling part of the northern coastal property." That land was prime expansion territory. Dad always said it would double the resort's value within 10 years. "She can't be serious," I said. "She can. And she is." "Why?" Daniel hesitated. "Because if that land is sold now, the long-term growth potential shrinks, which means when you turn 30, there's less leverage." There it was again. Leverage. She wasn't just removing me from the villa. She was shrinking my future. That night, I didn't sleep. I ran projections, market comps, liquidity options, private equity pathways. The trust restricted direct access to capital, but it didn't restrict what I could build outside of it. If she wanted to play corporate chess, fine. I grew up watching the best players. I applied for a junior analyst position at a private equity firm in Los Angeles. I didn't mention my last name's connection to the resort. I cut it down to Liv Hayes. No legacy, no safety net. I worked 16-hour days, learned distressed asset acquisition, hostile buyouts, silent partnerships. I stopped being the daughter. I started becoming competition. 6 months later, Victoria officially listed the northern property. Environmental maintenance issues scared off most buyers. High holding costs, zoning complexity. It looked unattractive on paper, but I knew the truth. That land was the keystone. And through a newly formed investment group, I made an offer, an anonymous LLC backed by strategic partners. Daniel helped structure it. None of them knew it was personal. They thought it was opportunistic. They were right. The deal closed in 90 days. For the first time since being thrown out, I drove back through those gates, not as family, as an investor. Victoria greeted the representatives of our LLC in the executive office. She wore white this time, confident, controlled. "I'm glad we found such capable buyers," she said. I shook her hand. She didn't recognize me at first. Different hair, different posture, no designer clothes. When realization flickered across her face, it was subtle, but I saw it, and I smiled. "This is just phase 1, I told her. She assumed I meant development. I meant war, but I still didn't understand something. Why rush to reduce long-term value? Why push me out so aggressively? It wasn't just control, it was fear. And a month later, I found out what she was afraid of, and it had nothing to do with money. A month after the land deal closed, I received an email that changed everything. Subject line: "Your father didn't want her in control." No signature, no name, just an attachment, a scanned document. At first, I assumed it was spam, but when I opened it, my hands started shaking. It was dated 8 months before my father died. A draft amendment to the trust. In it, my father had outlined a phased transition of control to me at 25, not 30, 25. And the clause that kept Victoria in power until I turned 30? It wasn't there. I stared at the document for an hour. The signature line was blank. It was a draft, which meant one of two things. Either he never finalized it, or someone made sure he didn't. I forwarded it to Daniel immediately. He called me within 5 minutes. "Where did you get this?" Anonymous email. Silence. Then, quietly, "I remember this draft." My pulse quickened. "You do?" "Yes." "Your father wasn't comfortable with the original trust timeline. He thought 30 was too late." "So what happened?" Another silence. "He postponed signing it. Said he wanted to review tax implications one more time. And then he died." Yes. I felt something shift inside me. If he had intended to move control earlier, Victoria's authority was never meant to last this long, which meant she benefited directly from his sudden death. I hated where my mind was going, but I couldn't ignore it. Over the next few weeks, I started digging. Not emotionally, strategically. I requested corporate financial disclosures connected to Hayes Cove. As a partial landholder now, I had legal access to certain operational summaries. And what I found was interesting. Executive compensation had increased. Victoria's discretionary spending category had tripled. There were consulting payments to a firm I didn't recognize. A firm established just 4 months before my father died. The firm's address traced back to an office in Beverly Hills. On paper, it specialized in legacy asset optimization. In reality, it had 3 employees, and one of them had previously worked for a boutique estate law group, the same group that drafted our original trust. Coincidence? Maybe. But leverage isn't built on maybe. I hired a forensic accountant using my own money, a woman named Rachel Lynn. Sharp, unemotional, brilliant. I didn't tell her it was personal. I told her I suspected internal restructuring irregularities. 2 weeks later, she called me. "You're right to be concerned." "How bad?" "There are legal structures in place that technically comply with trust law, but they heavily favor the acting controller. Define heavily. Several performance benchmarks tied to future control transfers were quietly adjusted after your father's death. Adjusted.
After. How?
Through internal board approval, which Victoria chairs. I felt heat rise in my chest. She modified the growth thresholds.
Yes.
Which means even when you turn 30, meeting control transfer conditions becomes significantly harder. It wasn't just delay. It was sabotage. Now I understood. She didn't just want time. She wanted permanence. If resort valuation dipped below certain targets, if debt ratios rose, if expansion stalled, control could legally remain in her hands indefinitely. And selling the northern property, that weakened long-term valuation, which justified her extended control. It was elegant,
Cold.
and calculated. For a moment, I considered confronting her. But confrontation without dominance is weakness. Instead, I escalated. If she wanted to reduce valuation metrics, I would increase them, dramatically, using the land I now owned. The northern property had development potential. Dad once showed me a conceptual master plan: eco-luxury villas, private marina access, membership expansion. He said it would redefine the West Coast resort market. I found that file in my old laptop backups, and I built a proposal. Not emotional, aggressive. Projected ROI, 38% over 5 years. Sustainable branding, celebrity partnerships, high net worth subscription tiers. Then I pitched it to my investment group. They loved it. We broke ground within 4 months. The press picked it up. New luxury expansion adjacent to Hayes Cove. Victoria couldn't block it. The land was mine. But the success of my project directly increased the resort's perceived overall value. Analysts started referencing Hayes Cove as a growing ecosystem again. Valuation ticked upward. Board pressure followed. Why wasn't the core resort matching the growth next door? Why was leadership stagnant? Why was expansion outsourced to external investors? That's when she requested a private meeting. We met in the same ocean-facing living room where she told me to leave. She didn't offer tea this time. "You're playing a dangerous game," she said. "No," I replied calmly. "I'm playing business." "You think development next door gives you leverage?" "It already has." Her jaw tightened. "You're destabilizing long-term strategy." "I'm correcting it." Silence. Then she leaned closer. "You have no idea how much I protected you."
Protected me.
"From what?" I studied her face. For the first time, I saw something that wasn't control. It was fear. Not fear of losing money. Fear of something else. "You rushed Dad's estate planning," I said evenly.
Why?
Her expression hardened. "Be careful, Olivia." "Of what?" "Of discovering things you can't undo." That night, I couldn't shake her words.
Protected me.
"From what?" I called Daniel again. "Did my father have enemies?" He laughed softly. "Liv, he was worth hundreds of millions. Of course he had enemies. Legal enemies. Lawsuits. Threats." He paused. "There was one situation." My heart pounded. "What situation?" "About a year before he passed, there was a private acquisition attempt. A hostile one." "From who?" Daniel hesitated. "I'm not sure I should." "Daniel." "A hospitality conglomerate out of New York. They wanted Hayes Cove badly. And your father refused. Publicly." "What happened next?" "They backed off. Officially." "Officially." I started connecting pieces. Hostile acquisition attempt. Trust structured to delay my control. Land sold to weaken valuation. Performance metrics altered. And Victoria claiming she protected me. Protected me from becoming the next obstacle. From becoming the person they would pressure. Or remove. Suddenly, my exile from the villa felt different. Less like punishment. More like insulation. But insulation from who? Her? Or someone bigger? 3 nights later, I got my answer. Rachel, my forensic accountant, called me at 11:40 p.m. "You need to see this." She forwarded a set of archived emails uncovered through corporate subpoena tied to zoning compliance. One thread stood out: Victoria, and an executive from that New York hospitality conglomerate. Dated 2 months after my father's death. The message read, "Transition proceeding as expected. Control secure until 30." My chest tightened. Transition proceeding. Control secure. This wasn't protection. This was partnership. And that's when I understood. She didn't want temporary power. She was positioning the resort for sale. And if she succeeded, by the time I turned 30, there would be nothing left to inherit. I wasn't fighting for a house anymore. I was fighting for my father's legacy. And now I knew something else. If she was aligned with a conglomerate powerful enough to attempt a hostile takeover once, then my next move had to be bigger. Not emotional, not reactive, bigger. Because if she planned to sell the resort, then I would make sure there was only one buyer left.
Me.
The moment I confirmed Victoria was working with that New York conglomerate, everything became clear. This was never about grief, never about independence. It was about positioning. If she could maintain control long enough to lower growth projections, adjust valuation benchmarks, and frame the resort as stabilized under new leadership, she could sell it. And because the trust delayed my authority until 30, I would have no voting power to stop it. She wasn't trying to manage my inheritance. She was liquidating it. I needed the name. Daniel had avoided saying it before. This time I pushed. It was Harrington Leisure Group, he finally admitted. Harrington Leisure Group. Old money. East Coast portfolio. Aggressive acquisitions. They specialized in buying iconic independent properties and folding them into luxury chains. They didn't preserve legacy. They standardized it, which meant Hayes Cove would become just another branded destination. My father would be erased. I started researching Harrington's financial patterns. They rarely launched direct hostile takeovers twice. Instead, they waited. They created internal allies. They let valuation drift. Then they entered as rescuers. Victoria wasn't being pressured. She was cooperating. And if that email thread was accurate, she'd been cooperating for months. So I changed strategy. If she planned to sell, I would make the resort too expensive to acquire. Not emotionally, financially. First, I expanded my development project faster than planned. We accelerated marina construction, secured celebrity soft commitments for villa pre-sales, partnered with a sustainability architect whose name alone added prestige. Pre-launch reservations exceeded projections by 22%. Industry analysts started revising regional luxury forecasts upward. Every time my development's valuation increased, so did the perceived value of adjacent Hayes Cove, which made Harrington's potential acquisition more expensive. Then I made a more dangerous move. I began quietly buying secondary debt tied to the resort. Hayes Cove carried a moderate line of credit, standard leverage for expansion liquidity. That debt had been syndicated across several smaller banks. Through shell entities and intermediaries, I acquired significant portions of it, legally, silently. If Victoria tried to push a rapid sale, debt holders could influence terms. And I was now one of them. 3 months later, she made her move. A press leak. Hayes Cove exploring strategic partnership. Translation. They were testing the waters. Stock analysts speculated acquisition. Hospitality blogs buzzed. And Harrington stock rose 3% that week. They were preparing the market. She called me the next morning. "You're interfering with confidential negotiations," she said flatly. "I don't work for you," I replied. "You're destabilizing shareholder confidence." "I am a shareholder." Silence. Then, "You think you can outmaneuver institutional capital?" "No," I said calmly. "I think I can outlast it." What she didn't know was this. I wasn't planning to block the sale. I was planning to become the alternative buyer. But to do that, I needed scale. I flew to New York. For the first time, I walked into rooms where my father once negotiated. Private equity offices overlooking Central Park. Family offices managing generational wealth. I didn't pitch revenge. I pitched opportunity. Iconic West Coast asset. Temporary governance instability. Undervalued due to leadership transition. Expansion synergy already proven next door. Projected IRR? Compelling. Risk profile? Manageable with controlling interest. Several passed. 2 listened. 1 leaned forward and asked the real question. Why are you so certain the current leadership will fail? I held his gaze. Because they're managing for exit, not growth. He smiled slightly. And you're managing for? Control. Back in Malibu, tensions escalated. Victoria accelerated cost-cutting measures. Staff layoffs. Reduced renovation budgets. Short-term margin optimization. Classic pre-sale polishing. But that short-term optimization? It reduced long-term guest experience. Ratings dipped slightly. Luxury clients noticed.
And I amplified it. Subtly.
Strategic marketing around my adjacent development emphasized exclusivity, modern design, visionary leadership. The contrast became visible, not through attacks, through comparison. Then something unexpected happened. One of Harrington's board members contacted me privately. He had heard about my expansion project. Off the record, he said over lunch in Manhattan, "Are you trying to block this deal?" "No," I answered honestly. "I'm preparing for it." He studied me. "You realize if Harrington acquires Hayes Cove, they'll remove you from adjacent operations eventually." "I'm counting on them trying." He smiled. "You're your father's daughter." That night, I ran final projections. If I secured enough external capital, if I consolidated additional debt, if I timed it correctly, I could present a counteroffer. Not as heir, as buyer, but it would require everything. Every relationship, every favor, every risk. And if I failed, Harrington would absorb the resort. Victoria would cash out, and I would lose permanently. Then, 2 weeks later, the official announcement came. Hayes Cove had entered exclusive acquisition talks with Harrington Leisure Group. 30-day exclusivity window. After that, the deal could close. 30 days. That number again. 30. My entire life seemed measured against it. I stood outside the villa one evening. Guests were inside. Lights glowing. Music floating through the glass doors. That house wasn't just property. It was the center of the resort's identity. And Victoria was about to sell it to strangers. Unless I moved now. Not defensively. Decisively. I called Daniel. "It's time." "For what?" he asked quietly. "To buy the resort." He exhaled slowly. "You understand what that means?" "Yes." "You'll be leveraging personal guarantees." "Yes." "If it fails." "I know." Silence. Then, "Your father would have been proud." The next morning, I wired the first commitment. The largest financial risk of my life. And I requested an emergency board session. Not as daughter, not as displaced heir, as a controlling debt stakeholder and adjacent majority developer. Victoria couldn't refuse. Legally, she had to listen. When I walked into that boardroom, for the first time since being thrown out, I wasn't there to defend myself. I was there to take something back. But what I didn't know yet was that Victoria had one final card left. And it wasn't financial. The emergency board meeting was scheduled for Friday at 9 a.m. Same glass conference room. Same ocean view. Same long polished table where I once sat powerless while they read my father's will. But this time, I wasn't at the end of the table. I was across from Victoria. And I wasn't alone. 2 representatives from my investment group attended via video. Daniel sat to my right. 3 independent board members filled the remaining seats. Victoria looked calm. Too calm. I opened first. "I am submitting a formal expression of interest to acquire Hayes Cove Resort in full." The room went still. One board member blinked twice. "You?" he asked carefully. "Yes." Victoria didn't react, which meant she expected this. I represent a capital coalition prepared to match or exceed Harrington's offer. I continued. I slid the documents across the table. Preliminary valuation, financing structure, debt consolidation plan. Not emotional, surgical. One board member adjusted his glasses. You're 25. I'm solvent, I replied. Silence. Then Victoria finally spoke.
You re-over-leveraged.
Strategically positioned, I corrected. She leaned back slightly. You think this is about ownership? It isn't. No, I said evenly. It's about legacy. Her eyes sharpened. And you believe you understand that? I believe Dad intended me to. Then she played her card. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't slam her hand. She simply slid a folder across the table. If we're discussing intentions, she said calmly, perhaps we should discuss all of them. I frowned. What is this? Open it. I did. And the first page made my throat close. A DNA report. My name. My father's name. Probability of paternity. 0%. The room tilted. That's not real, I whispered. It's verified, Victoria replied softly. Conducted 6 months before he died. My ears rang. He never showed you because he loved you, she continued. But legally, biologically, you were not his daughter. The board members were frozen. Daniel looked like he'd been punched. No, I said again. Victoria's voice was steady, which means the trust was structured out of generosity, not obligation. The implication hung in the air. I wasn't an heir. I was adopted in practice. Unknowingly, my mind raced. Memories. Birthdays. His voice teaching me to swim.
His laugh.
None of that felt fake. You're lying, I said quietly. She shook her head. He confronted your mother about it years ago.
He chose to stay.
Chose to raise you. The air felt thin. You're using this now, I said slowly, because you think it invalidates me. I'm using it, she replied, because if this acquisition turns hostile, Harrington will use it. Publicly. That's when it clicked. This wasn't about shame. It was about optics. If the media framed me as not the real daughter attempting emotional takeover, investor confidence would wobble. My financing partners would hesitate. Narrative matters in high finance. And she had just weaponized mine. The board adjourned early. No vote. No decision. Just shock. I walked out without speaking. Daniel followed me into the parking lot. Liv. Did you know?
I asked.
His silence was answer enough. I found out a few weeks before your father passed, he admitted quietly. He was going to tell you. He just ran out of time. I felt something crack inside me. So this whole time, I whispered, I wasn't even supposed to be here. That's not true. Biology says otherwise. Biology doesn't build resorts. Daniel snapped gently. Your father did, and he raised you. That night, I sat alone in my apartment. DNA test on the table. Identity feels solid until it isn't. For 25 years, I believed I was fighting to protect my father's legacy. Now, the question echoed. Was it ever mine to protect? If I wasn't blood, was I just a guest in his life? My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but I answered. Olivia? Male voice. Older. Controlled. Yes. This is Charles Harrington. My spine straightened. Charles Harrington, CEO of Harrington Leisure Group. I believe we need to talk, he said. We met 2 days later in Manhattan. Private dining room. No assistants. No lawyers. He studied me with clinical curiosity. You've complicated our acquisition, he said plainly. You've complicated my inheritance. A faint smile. I assume Victoria shared the report. Yes. And nothing changes.
He leaned back.
That's not how markets work. Markets follow confidence, and confidence follows narrative. There it was again. Narrative. You're implying I don't have one, I said. I'm implying, he replied calmly, that if this becomes public, sentiment shifts. Investors hesitate. Lenders recalculate. You're threatening me? No, he said smoothly. I'm offering clarity. Then he surprised me. Withdraw your counteroffer. Partner with us instead. I stared at him. You'd give me equity, minority stake, executive visibility, legacy branding intact, and Victoria? Compensated. Of course. They didn't want chaos. They wanted absorption.
Clean.
Quiet. Profitable. You'd keep the Hayes name? I asked. For marketing purposes, yes. Marketing purposes. My father reduced to brand equity. I stood up. You're underestimating something. And what is that? Control isn't inherited through blood. He watched me carefully. It's earned. He smiled slightly. You sound like him. On the flight back to California, I made a decision. Victoria thought the DNA report weakened me. Harrington thought it destabilized my financing. They were both wrong. Because biology doesn't define leverage. Information does. And I now possess something dangerous. If my father knew I wasn't biologically his and still structured the trust to include me, then that was an obligation. It was intention, which meant somewhere in writing, in private correspondence, there would be proof. And if I could find it, the narrative wouldn't collapse. It would explode. When I landed, Rachel texted me. I found archived personal correspondence between your father and the estate law firm, predating the final trust version. My heart pounded. Is it relevant? Her reply came 10 seconds later. You need to read this. I met Rachel at her office before sunrise. She didn't say much, just handed me a printed email thread, dated 11 months before my father died. Subject line: Final trust structure. Personal clarification. It was addressed to his estate attorney. I started reading. I am fully aware that Olivia is not my biological daughter. I've been aware for over a decade. This changes nothing. She is my only child in every way that matters. My vision blurred. I kept reading. The trust must reflect my intentional choice, not a legal obligation. I want her to inherit operational control when she is ready, not when it is convenient for others. If there is resistance, document this. I am choosing her. Choosing her. Not defaulting. Not tolerating. Choosing. My hands were shaking. There was more. If circumstances prevent me from completing the amendment before final execution, I expect the board to honor the spirit of my instruction. Delayed control is acceptable. Permanent obstruction is not. Permanent obstruction is not. He saw the risk. He anticipated resistance.
He knew.
I looked up at Rachel. This is legally admissible?
Yes.
It establishes intent. Even though the amendment wasn't signed, it doesn't override the trust. But it reshapes fiduciary interpretation, especially if control is being manipulated. Which it was. Victoria hadn't just delayed me. She had altered performance benchmarks to extend herself indefinitely. That directly violated this spirit of instruction. And boards care about one thing above all else: liability. For the first time since the DNA reveal, I didn't feel destabilized. I felt anchored.
He knew. He chose me anyway.
Blood didn't define me. Decision did. And that was stronger. I requested another board session. This time, Victoria objected. She cited ongoing acquisition negotiations. I cited fiduciary duty. Legally, they had to reconvene. When we gathered again, the atmosphere was colder.
Victoria didn't look at me.
I placed the printed email copies in front of each board member. This is my father's documented intent regarding control transfer. They read in silence. One member removed his glasses. This appears explicit. Yes, I said evenly. And current performance threshold adjustments directly contradict it. Victoria's jaw tightened. This is emotional manipulation. No, I replied. It's legal clarification. Daniel spoke next. As financial advisor to the late Mr. Hayes, I can confirm he expressed concern about permanent control displacement. The room shifted. Board members exchanged glances. The narrative had changed. Not entitled non-biological daughter, but chosen successor whose authority is being obstructed. That difference matters, especially in corporate governance. Victoria tried to regain footing. The trust is legally binding as written. Yes, I agreed calmly. And fiduciary duty requires acting in the best interest of beneficiaries, not engineering scenarios to nullify them. Silence. Then one board member asked the question she feared. Were post-death performance metrics adjusted in a way that extends your control beyond originally forecasted projections? She didn't answer immediately, which was answer enough. The board called for independent review. Acquisition talks with Harrington were not canceled, but exclusivity was suspended pending governance clarification. 30-day window paused. Charles Harrington called me within hours. You've escalated. You tried to absorb. You're playing a risky game. I learned from the best. He chuckled softly. Your father would have enjoyed this. I know. Victoria confronted me outside the villa that evening. For the first time, she looked tired. You think this vindicates you? She asked quietly. It clarifies me. You don't understand the forces involved. Then explain them. She hesitated. And for a split second, I saw something unexpected. Regret. It wasn't supposed to go this far, she said. What wasn't? The partnership. With Harrington? Yes. You were going to sell. I was going to protect stability. By removing me? By preventing collapse. That word landed heavily. Collapse? I repeated. She looked toward the ocean. Your father took on more risk than you realized before he died. My pulse slowed. What kind of risk? She exhaled slowly. He leveraged personal guarantees during an aggressive expansion phase. If certain revenue projections had dipped, the resort could have faced forced restructuring. That's normal leverage.
Yes.
But he layered it. Layered, meaning stacked exposure. If Harrington had launched a hostile takeover during that window, she continued, they could have exploited covenant pressure. And you aligned with them to avoid that? I opened dialogue to stabilize the threat. I studied her. Then why continue after the risk window passed? She didn't answer, which meant stabilization became opportunity, and opportunity became greed. Over the next 2 weeks, independent auditors confirmed it. Victoria had indeed adjusted growth benchmarks beyond original projections. Not illegal, but self-serving. Board confidence shifted. Quietly.
Subtly.
But decisively. Then something happened none of us expected. Harrington withdrew their acquisition interest. Public statement. Market conditions no longer align with strategic timing. Translation. Too messy. Too expensive. Too resistant. Charles sent me a short email. You've made it clear this asset won't be easy to absorb. I respect that. No threats. No anger. Just acknowledgement. Victoria's leverage evaporated overnight. Without Harrington's backing, her exit strategy collapsed. And the board requested a vote. Not on ownership. On leadership. Interim operational control pending full trust review. The vote passed. 4-1. Victoria abstained. Control transferred temporarily.
To me.
The first night I walked back into the villa alone. It didn't feel triumphant. It felt quiet. The house hadn't changed. But I had. I stood in the living room where she told me to leave. And I understood something finally. This was never about proving I was his daughter. It was about proving I was capable of leading what he built. And capability doesn't require blood. It requires backbone. But one final conversation remained. Victoria requested it. Private. No lawyers. No board. Just us. And what she told me that night changed how I saw her forever. Victoria asked me to meet her in the garden behind the villa. No board members. No attorneys. No performance reports. Just the two of us. The ocean was calm that night. For the first time in months, so was I. She didn't look polished anymore. No designer armor. No controlled posture. Just a woman who had lost her position. "You won," she said quietly. "This wasn't about winning." "It always is," she replied. I studied her face. "Then why did you really do it?" She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she walked toward the edge of the property where the lights from my development shimmered in the distance. "He was going to choose you," she said finally. "He did choose me. You don't understand." Her voice tightened. "Before he died, he told me he was preparing you for full control." I stayed silent. "He said I was brilliant at stabilizing systems," she continued, "but you were built to grow them." That landed heavier than anything else she had said. "So, you tried to stop me?" "I tried to delay you. By selling everything? By securing my future before I became unnecessary." There it was. Not greed.
Fear.
She had married a powerful man, built influence beside him, helped structure the business. But she was never meant to own it long term. I was. And when he died, the clock started ticking on her relevance. "You could have mentored me," I said quietly. She laughed softly. "You didn't need mentoring." That wasn't an insult. It was recognition. "I didn't alter the benchmarks just for power," she added. "I did it because I wasn't sure you were ready. You didn't give me the chance. I thought pressure would break you." And she looked at me fully for the first time. "It sharpened you." We stood in silence for a while. Then she said something I didn't expect. "The DNA test wasn't meant to destroy you." It felt like it. It was meant to prepare you. For what? For the kind of world this level of power lives in. She wasn't wrong. The second it surfaced, Harrington would have weaponized it. Investors would have questioned legitimacy. The press would have framed it as scandal. Instead, I walked into it already knowing, already steady, already chosen. Did he ever regret it? I asked quietly. "No," she said immediately. "Never." The wind shifted. The house behind us glowed warm against the night. For the first time, it didn't feel like something I needed to reclaim. It felt like something I needed to protect. Victoria resigned officially 2 weeks later. No scandal, no public fight, just a structured exit agreement and a board statement about leadership transition. She left California shortly after. We haven't spoken since. But I don't hate her, because without her resistance, I would have inherited comfort. Instead, I built authority. And there's a difference. 6 months later, Hayes Cove Resort hit its highest valuation in company history. Expansion integrated seamlessly. Debt consolidated under favorable terms. Operational transparency restored. And for the first time, the board voted unanimously to accelerate full control transfer. Not because of blood. Not because of obligation. Because of performance. The night I officially became CEO, I walked down to the water alone. I thought about the little girl who learned to swim here. The young woman escorted out by security. The analyst working 16-hour days to prove she belonged in rooms she once entered as a child. And I realized something powerful. I was never fighting to prove I was his daughter. I was proving I was his decision. And that's stronger. People ask me sometimes, was it worth it? The humiliation, the risk, the exposure, the DNA. Yes, because being thrown out forced me to walk back in on my own terms. And buying the resort wasn't revenge. It was alignment with who I chose to become. If there's one thing I learned, it's this. Family isn't biology. Legacy isn't automatic. And power isn't given. It's built. Quietly. Relentlessly. Intentionally. Just like he built this place. And just like I rebuilt myself. If this story resonated with you, if you believe that sometimes the worst rejection becomes the strongest redirection, make sure you subscribe to the Channel Life Confessions. Because here, we don't just tell stories about loss. We tell stories about transformation. And sometimes, the moment you're pushed out of the door is the exact moment you learn how to own the building.